This is the most debated Premier League prediction of all time. I know some people will say "Ki this is ridiculous. Why are you doing predictions 3 weeks into the transfer window and the season?"
First
But
international break.
and the first international break, but we have done the genius thing because transfer window now shut with last minute ins and outs, and it can absolutely change the landscape of teams. One signing can make such a big difference. So basically, me and Pratik, we are back here now. We have decided to share our final top six. We are doing top six, not top four.
Yes, please.
So because the season has been so predictable, we have been feeling generous, and we have a little bit of free time on our hands today. So we are going to talk about our top six predictions for this 2020 and 21 season, and we'll talk about notable absentees and maybe the surprise packages of the season. Okay. So Pratik, on to you. Batao.
I'll start straight from my predictions. Uh, Top four, I would say, it's going to be Liverpool, Man City still. I mean, in spite of the fact that they haven't started really well,
So this is in
and
order, huh? Who is winning? Who is second? Who is third? Who is fourth?
I am doing it in order actually. I'm seeing Liverpool as defending their title as of now,
Oh,
and I see Man City missing out again.
another season of you know Liverpool fans all over the place. Oh my God. Okay, then
I think
Man
this
City,
might be.
you're
I
tipping for
think
second.
I think this might be like the last one of the series. But yeah, I see
Uh,
them. I see them as the most impressive team this year as well, followed by Man City
okay.
again. I see
Okay.
Chelsea at number three. A
Okay.
bias there,
Like
not
most
at all.
pundits.
Huh? Didn't get.
Like most pundits.
I don't know about most pundits. I mean, that's where I want to see Chelsea at the end of the season, and with the the new signings that they have made this season, I think they have a squad good enough to finish there. I mean, if not above that. So yeah, I would give number three to Chelsea. Number four, I would give to Tottenham. Actually, I like the team they have this year. I've always liked the coach Mourinho, and I think they have what it takes to go over Arsenal and Man United by the end of the season. And the final two spots of the top six will be Arsenal followed by Man United. So those are my predictions. I don't see. Manu actually coming above Arsenal because I have more faith on Arteta as a manager, and I also am like though we haven't seen Partey in action yet, I also am quite optimistic about Arsenal's chances this season. So over to you. What do you think?
You want the brain ka answer or you want the heart ka answer first?
Just give me an answer. Decide heart or brain. That's your
It's
fucking
too
job.
difficult, man. And the last week has fucked up my mind even more. I mean, quite frankly, logic would say Liverpool would defend their title, but it's 2020, so let me go for an illogical choice. I think Chelsea might do it. I think Chelsea might sneak up from behind, and it may not be a very consistent season from any of the top sides just per se. So it all depends on who is willing to go on a consistent run, because like we have seen earlier, any team who pulls that run through will probably end the season winning. So I look at the squad depth and I think Chelsea might spring in a surprise. I mean, logic would say young team, time to gel in, new players to bed in the new league. So very difficult to say, but I think once we have Ziyech back, and I think I have spoken about Ziyech in almost every podcast that we have done, but I think he's really important to the system that we are trying to play. And slowly but surely, Thiago Silva will also get more confidence. Thiago Silva and Zuma, by the way, looked absolutely lovely in the last game. So hopefully, that's one partnership that will be consistent through the season. So I'm pipping Chelsea for first. I think Liverpool will be the second team. We just will pick them right at the end. I think they are also a very good side. So probably will be the most consistent among out of the other group as such. Uh, I think Spurs might get third. I think Mourinho might really pull one out of the hat this season. I think Spurs might be pushing this season. I looking at the other sides, how inconsistent they are. I think Spurs might get through. The fourth one is interesting because I think three teams are in contention for this. Maybe even four if Man United sack their manager soon enough. We'll come to Ole and Lampard soon, but I think they will do it eventually, and they will get rid of the manager and sign a Pochettino or someone, maybe a Giggs. I don't know. So um, I think for the last spot, Everton, Arsenal, and Leicester are going to have a go at this fourth spot. So it all depends who is able to keep their first 11 fit and going through the most of the season without major injuries, because most of these sides are very good if you consider their first 11, but I think one injury and they will lose rhythm and lose a lot of points that they should be putting. So if I had to pick one team, uh, I'll probably go for Ancelotti's Everton. I think Everton might get fourth this season.
Can I ask you a very important
And
question there?
yeah,
Where did Man City go in your evaluation?
I don't know, man. I don't know what
Are they in
happened.
top 10?
Quite honestly, I think logic would tell you that Man City or Liverpool will win this league, right? But I find there are some signs of Man City not being in the best of state. Not like a Man United, of course, but Guardiola is under some pressure. I mean, the league has been done and dusted. He has won it twice. He has won the Carabao Cup, FA Cup, whatever there is to be won domestically, it's done. But the Champions League still is, only that much far every season. Every season you feel like, this is their group or their road to the final. Leon wasn't the most difficult game. And quite honestly, they made a real mess of it. So I think they will focus more on the Champions League once again rather than the Premier League. And even if you look at the signings this season, I haven't gone really, oh wow, what a statement of intent by Man City. I think Liverpool with Thiago are, that was a more intense statement of intent signing than what Man City have done. Their defense is still a little suspect, and while it all may come together and they might do well, but I think quite honestly, I'll put them in that, fight for fourth as well. I
So,
think
four teams for fourth
it
place.
might
Don't
go
give me that.
Yeah, it might go two ways. Man City and Chelsea might, swap places. It may happen that way in my prediction. That again Chelsea is fighting for third and fourth or just fourth, and Man City is sitting on top of the league. But I would like to believe that Man City might have a slightly strange season this year. I think we have already seen some signs of it, and I think with the signings that they have made, they will have a little bit of more issues going forward once the season really starts getting, slightly more serious.
Also, this is Guardiola's last year of contract at Man City, and he is still not very keen on renewing it. And that is why even Man City are keeping tabs on Pochettino for next season.
Yeah, it
So,
also
what
has
do you
been a
think?
very bad year for Guardiola as well. I mean, he lost his mom, and a lot of things behind the scenes haven't been that great either. So, lots to consider for him as well. I mean, the PSG job always keeps looming, and you know, and the chance to coach maybe Neymar and Mbappe one more time. So it's an interesting one. And
Funny you
I
talked about
think,
Mbappe there because word has it that he's Premier League bound next season. Maybe Liverpool. Wouldn't that be a match?
see, I don't see Guardiola taking Klopp's job anytime soon. But to be honest, Liverpool will have to pump up a lot of cash in order to get Mbappe. I mean, it's not an impossible deal, but I mean, with COVID and the kind of club claims Liverpool are, they are not a Chelsea or a Man City that they can just throw money, but they do find a lot of money for key players. But Mbappe would be madness in terms of the money. I
But
mean, if you're talking about 120 million for Sancho, Mbappe would easily command 200 million.
where do you think he might end up then? Like if he is keen on
I
playing in the
seriously
Premier League.
think, I think if Ronald Koeman doesn't do a great job at Barca this year, uh, they would always want Guardiola back. Anyway. I think that one or the PSG job. I mean, I don't see him
No, no,
going
I'm
for
actually
any other.
I'm actually talking about Mbappe.
Oh, you're talking about Mbappe.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh, I think Real would be the ideal one actually. I
No,
think Real are the
but
only one who would be.
he has actually expressed a deeper interest for the Premier League than the Spanish Liga. That's what I was talking about.
Look, it will have to be crazy money. I mean, who in this market has that crazy money? Man City one. I don't know whether he's so keen on Man City. I mean, maybe if he likes the challenge and wants to win the Champions League for them, but it doesn't really feel the kind of club Mbappe would go for. I mean, it looks a tussle between let's say Liverpool and maybe a Man United,
Man
but
United actually seems very likely, but he's not really keen on United. He's very keen on Liverpool. Do you think Chelsea have got a chance there? An outside chance, maybe. Does Chelsea want him in the first place?
I mean, quite honestly, I am really curious to see what happens with Callum Hudson-Odoi this year. Because I think a lot depends on how he goes this season. If it's not all well and sundry, don't be surprised if we go for Sancho next year. I mean, there's always this chance of us getting Sancho more than Man United because that's a more doable deal as far as I'm concerned than someone like Mbappe who will command crazy money. I mean, we haven't really ever done crazy money deal except Kepa and Shevchenko and Torres. So our really crazy money deals are not good. They don't really have a good omen about it. So I would probably steer away from something like that because quite frankly we are not that club. I mean a Real Madrid or a Barcelona can maybe afford an Mbappe and buy another 120 million player after that. But I
Not
don't think we
Barcelona
are that.
anymore.
Wait for one season. Wait for the presidential elections later this month. Once Bartemo is out and the new president comes in, they'll find the money again.
Anyway, getting back
So,
to the Premier
yeah,
League.
coming back to our Premier League predictions. So,
Yes.
yeah, actually, I
So
think,
how
yeah,
does
Man City 4.
your top six look like?
Okay, so Chelsea, Liverpool, Tottenham, City, Everton, Arsenal,
Manu and who else, Mister
Leicester,
Leicester.
Man U and Leicester messed up. Yeah.
So
So,
they get into your top eight then.
yeah, it's really weird that way, right? We're talking about a top eight, and quite frankly, I think what will happen is as we get into the season right after the break, I think 3 games in or 4 games in, we'll figure out which ones are the ones who are actually going to challenge through the season. I
No,
think
but I think even
the problem with
even 3 or 4 games in, I think the more important factor was the consistency you were mentioning, because it all comes down to who can go through a good run of games, and that has been
yeah,
the characteristic of most season winning sides over the past few years. And like it's like Manu had a horrid first half of the season last season, but they came back really strongly post January and clinched the third place out of nowhere, while Leicester had been looking good all season. So yeah, I think it comes down to consistency as well, and I think it's one of the most important factors that actually determines who finishes where.
We spoke about the top four. Let's talk a bit about the ones that we think will miss out. I mean, let's talk about United and Leicester first. So the thing about Leicester is, last season, yes, they were third for a long time, and they kind of capitulated after the break happened. But they had so many players injured. I mean, they really have one out-and-out goal scorer in Vardy. I mean, yeah, Iheanacho is good in flashes, but he's not that consistent goal scorer that can take some pressure off Vardy. So again, they haven't really. I don't think they have addressed that situation till now, where the goals are spread out in the team. So there's a lot of pressure on the likes of Madison, likes of Barnes. These players have to now step in. Jose Perez was scoring so freely in the first half, and the goals completely dried up in the second half. So if they can have a more all-rounded goal threat, I think they might come close. But if it's all about Jamie Vardy, I don't think this season will be any better.
I also think
Uh,
what they lack in their team quite much is the lack of depth. Actually, I mean they have a good first 11, but the people who are like following up on the first 11, like you're talking about, Ehia Nacho being the substitute for Vardy, and like
yeah.
Vardy being 34, 33, 34, I guess, right now does not make it easier for him to carry a team like Leicester all through the season and such a busy season at that on his
Yeah.
own shoulders himself. It's a team filled with quality, and it has like dazzled all of us so many times over the past few seasons, especially since Brendan Rodgers took over. I mean, they have a good style of football. I think you missed out on Yuri Tielemans, who is a very integral part of Brendan Rodgers' team. And yeah, they have good players thrown in there who, on their day, can topple any opponent that come their way. But yeah, it's a long season, and they don't really look very deep on the bench. So I think that was the problem that they faced last season as well. Like after a point where Chilwell went injured, they didn't have anyone to come in his place and actually still keep performing for Leicester. So I think they're going to face this problem again, and until they address the issue in the market, it's going to keep coming back to them. So yeah, I mean, I think likewise about Leicester.
So coming to Manchester United now, of course, um, here I am tipping a novice coach like Lampard for the title after one season in the Premiership, where critics will say he took Chelsea from third to fourth. You know, and then on the other hand, we are talking about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer getting sacked pretty soon after the dismal 6-1 defeat to Tottenham. Now, it's a valid argument. I mean, both are young coaches who are finding their feet in really top positions as much. But I think even probably Man United fans agree that Ole is probably not the right man to, you know, build a team that might win the Premier League in the future. Now, whether it is because of the board or not, they have spent a lot of money in the last couple of years, and yes, it has been bad spending. I mean, they haven't been spending it, but at the same time, there isn't this confidence in Ole Gunnar Solskjaer that within the group of players that they have got, he will create a system or player system that will get the best out of it. I mean, you should not be losing 6-1 to Tottenham. You should not be losing to 3-1 to Crystal Palace. No matter, even if you didn't get Sancho, that squad is good enough not to be bullied by teams like that. So obvious questions there, but you know, people criticize Lampard's defensive capabilities in the last year. We have also lost the final to another first timer, of course, Miguel Arteta. But there are question marks about Lampard and whether he's the right man to take Chelsea forward as well, especially with the talent pool we now have in the system right now. So, you know, there are also certain similarities like us going for a 36-year-old PSG player in Thiago Silva and United buying a Cavani who is slightly younger, but at the same time arrives very last moment, which almost sounds like a desperate signing, but he also is a quality striker who has a point to prove it. So, you think this comparison is valid, and you think are we being slightly unfair to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in the way we try to analyze him, and the same amount of leeway that Lampard gets? It's also called the English bias, that because he's English, the media does not really get on his back as much. But I think as Chelsea fans, we would agree that the season under Sarri, while it wasn't the worst season we ever had, it just didn't seem right. I mean, the 6-0 defeat to Man City was the breaking point for me. I mean, it doesn't matter what you do in the other games, you cannot lose like that. I mean, it just tells you that this team is not there mentally. And if they're not there mentally to play for you, you're probably not the right person to lead this team. And I think something similar is happening with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer right now. I mean, last season it was a huge, achievement to get the third place after that dismal start to the season. But I think this season it will be a little more difficult for him, especially after the transfer fiasco that has happened. So you think people are a little unfair to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as compared to Lampard?
Look, I'm always a fan of clubs who stick to their managers. I mean, you can you can actually dedicate any kind of success or failure to any manager at any point in time. I mean, there was one year at Chelsea itself where we had a Champions League winning manager who was let go off in the middle of next season. I mean, it all comes down to the
To be
owners and
fair, we had just failed to qualify for the knockout round of the same Champions League,
yes,
and
but that's the
standard.
thing, right? I mean, if you're going to persist with
In
any
in fact, funny that you mentioned that season because even that season was a lot like this one in the form of transfers. We had the likes of Oscar and Hazard and these other guys come in, Victor Moses. So it was also a very fresh looking squad there. Not Victor Moses actually, Marco Marin of all the people. Yeah. So it was also a season of transition as per se, like you were saying.
No, so that's what I was saying. I mean, it is almost inhuman to actually expect anyone to keep succeeding year on and year out. I mean, because everything is monitored these days and how the game goes and how strategies have evolved over the years. It is almost criminal to expect anyone to have good matches or 100% record. So, in spite of all of that, I think a kind of continuity at any club actually breeds success in the long run. And we have seen a lot of clubs go for that long term approach over the past few years and quite successfully as well. So, speak of Ole or speak of Lampard, I would actually like them being given the chance to continue on because, wherever in whichever situation they might find themselves in right now, both of them have had a very good last season. I mean, with the transfer ban and only playing academy youngsters as the new players into the team, it was very impressive for Lampard to finish in the top four and also end up at the FA Cup finals at Wembley. And similarly for Solskjaer, it was he finished third with a team that was barely complete. I mean, it's still not complete after this transfer window even. So there's definitely credit to be given there, but I would say that there are much more problems, much more daunting problems at Manchester United than Ole actually not working for the squad. But yeah, Ole is one of the problems who are there and are not contributing to the club moving upwards in any way. So what, like, the choice that they face is, like, what would they do? They would just keep a problem run its course, because there are many other problems to solve as well. I think like, the media is actually right in predicting that Ole would, if things go on like this, Ole would definitely be taken off from the reins at Manchester United uh, during the season. And I do expect someone like Pochettino to come in and take in the reins, as we have seen from the Manchester United board over the past few years. As for Lampard, well, let's say he's in a club where the chairman has been even more vicious than Manchester United. I mean, at Chelsea, even as Chelsea fans, we know that none of our managers actually, like, stay back after they have failed to uh, achieve the targets that they were actually hired for. So I don't see Lampard being sacked through the season, because I think he has that legend status of the club to get that chance of getting a full season under his belt with such a new look squad who are just only finding about playing with each other, like, very recently, and just finding their feet in the Premier Division. I think he would be given this entire season, and I think a top four finish will actually be enough to let him stay on for another season as well. But yeah, he would be expected to finish in the top four again, especially after the massive monster transfer window that he just had. So those are what I think will happen with the young managers here. But if we have to actually objectively, uh, like, bring them under the microscope, I would say, like, there are a lot of very tactically sound managers in the Premier League right now. Like we were talking about some time back. Like, we were talking about Guardiola and Mourinho and Ancelotti, and even Marcelo Bielsa, who are right up there when it comes
Wilder,
to, huh? Didn't get you.
Chris Wilder,
Chris Wilder as well. I mean, who are right up there when it
Nuno
comes to,
Espirito Santo. There is so much quality in the Premier League.
exactly. I mean, who know their tactics really well, who know why and how they are, like, turning up in a certain way and playing a certain way against certain teams and all. Do Solskjaer and Lampard have that much experience that they can actually either evolve or bring that into the team? It's like, it's all left to be seen. Like, I'm sure Lampard understands that he is still a work in progress, but yeah, I mean, so is this team. So it can turn out to be very good for them both, the team and Lampard as a coach. So those are what I do not agree with all the criticism that has come in for Lampard over the past few games, because he did not have his full team, and more credit should be given to him for what he did at the club last season. So yeah, I mean, that is my like, take on the Ole and Frank situation.
Okay. So, having witnessed whatever the transfer window had, planned out for Man United and finally what happened. As a Man United fan, what do you think is acceptable this season? If they keep Ole, if you like, you're talking about sticking with your manager. So let's say they stick with Ole, and what do you think is an acceptable
No,
position for them this season?
that's a problem at Man United, right? I mean, I was just talking about Ole's brilliant performance with the team last season, finishing third and all. So after that kind of a season, a club is supposed to back its manager. I mean, we have all known
Yeah,
about Manchester.
but the fans are aware that Ole hasn't been back. I mean, they will be realistic enough in their expectations to see what Chelsea have done, what Everton have done, or what Tottenham have done in the market, and look at their own transfer window and reassess. And that has already started happening. I think what the criticism where it comes from is you're talking about to rebuild from the manager and the team, right? Forget the board. The board is not in control. It's all about the players and the manager because at the end of the day, they will define what the results will be on the pitch. So I think the counter argument is Ole the best coach to take them forward in this rebuild process?
Hey,
I
but
mean, is
like,
the guy who will build a team?
But to that counter argument, I will ask a counter question here. Do you think, if it was Pochettino instead of Solskjaer at the helm at Man United, and he would have asked for a few signings of his own to make the team in his own stead, and if he wasn't back, do you think he could have done much with the Man United squad at his disposal? I don't think so.
Quite frankly, quite frankly, I don't think Pochettino is the right man for Man United. And
Just
I'll come to
just
why
for
I think so. Right?
just for speculations.
And yeah, I think the thing about Pochettino is, yes, he does improve players. I think people are talking about how Ole hasn't managed to improve the likes of Pogba and Rashford and Martial, but he has got a Greenwood in the team who has really looked a really bright prospect for the future. He is giving the younger players a chance. The team is slightly better off with the kind of football they are playing. I know the divas are still there. I mean, Paul Pogba really needs to get out of that club. I mean, he is killing his career and he is killing United at the same time. For an 89 million pound signing, I mean, he has just not been there. I mean, in the last couple of seasons, the time I remember the time they signed him, I was like, okay, they're signing a big player with big money with Mourinho at the helm, but it just hasn't happened. I mean, he just hasn't really had one season where you can talk about him as one of the best players in the league. And for that amount of money, it's just not an excuse
And
anymore.
that's in spite of the fact that Solskjaer actually wanted to build his team around Pogba, and it's been
I mean,
one.
he's a homegrown boy, right?
Exactly, and he has been Solskjaer has been trying that for 1.5 seasons, but none of it has actually showed on the field. So that is another big perennial problem with Manchester United and the way the club is run. I think they are more into running after the more flashier names of football, Hansa Sancho's and the Cavani's, who can actually get you a lot of marketing revenue all over the world. I think buying a Pogba and Alexis Sanchez were part of that kind of management strategy itself, and it has not really worked for them. But still, Manchester United being one of the richest clubs in the world, I don't see that stance actually changing in the future. So we were talking about Mbappe a few minutes back. So they are the kind of club that would actually go in for that kind of a signing, irrespective of the money. I mean, like they did for the case of Alexis Sanchez as well. And it is exactly these kind of signings that have not been working for them over the past few years since Alex Ferguson's departure. And if we actually go back before Ferguson's, when Ferguson was still at the helm, we did not know Manchester United for being typically that kind of club. So yeah, a lot has changed over there, and which also explains the change in their fortunes. And it actually seems very difficult for them to get back on top of the perch with newer teams and clubs actually emerging into the scene. So yeah, I mean, I mean, to be very honest with you, I'm never really sympathetic towards Manchester United as a club, because I've had my fair share of bad luck with their rowdy fans. But that's only me. But yeah, I mean, it's the reality that that I spoke of there, and it's something that everyone associated with English football has already seen. So yeah, a lot of problems there, and Ole is not the only one. But does that mean you don't address the only problem you can address? So yeah, that's where they're at.
Yeah, lots to think about there. Okay, so let's come to the final question of the evening. One team that you think will surprise them
You
this
know
year.
it.
One
You know
team.
my team. Come on.
Ah, so I'll go thoroughly unconventional, but I think this team has looked really good at times this season. I think Crystal Palace might surprise a few people this year.
Okay.
I think I quite like the team, to be very honest. I think they have a really interesting mix of the creative boys in the like of Townsend and now SA is there. They have a decent few strikers in Michi and Zaha, and Andre Ayew is also an interesting player. At the back, they're not the worst. They have a decent keeper. They have some good centre backs. Patrick Van Holt is, as we used to see earlier in his Chelsea career, and he is a Premier League proven player as well. So I think Palace might surprise a few this year. I mean, the after the weekend, of course, the fashionable favorites will be Aston Villa, but I don't think Aston Villa might be able to sustain this run for long enough. And I think if Palace play to their potential, I mean, I really like Roy Hodgson. I mean, I really admire his will to manage a Premier League club at the age of 70. I mean, it's quite amazing. And he's not a bad tactician at all. I mean, yes, the Chelsea game, you could say the scoreline maybe flattered Chelsea a little bit, but they're a tough team to beat. They are not the easiest team to kind of take points away from, which I think a lot of Premier League clubs will find out this year. So, Palace for me.
Okay, like
What's your
no, I told you, you know, my team. I've talked about it quite a lot. I mean, I'm actually, like, backing a lot of hopes on Leeds this year. I've
yeah,
talked a lot about how the team is looking and how much I
yeah.
admire Bielsa and his work over there. I mean, it's not a team of superstars, but we always like the kind of workman teams like that, who can, like, turn up day in and day out and threaten even champions playing against them. uh, I mean, I still remember the kind of feeling I had when Leicester were, like, running through with the championship. And though I would not rate them that highly, but I think they are surprise packages already this season. And I see them, like, causing a few upsets here and there, especially when they play at home at Allen Road with their brilliant support. So yeah, I think Leeds might be the surprise package this term, and I'm actually, like, banking on them finishing the top 10. But that might be a little bit too much for them. So yeah, I mean, that is the team to watch out for from my side. And Aston Villa, yes, I mean, I don't see them as top 10 material, but yeah, I mean, I see them in mid table. And I don't know, I still like Wolves, and I think they have had a fantastic past 2 seasons, and I think they will be there or thereabouts this season as well.
I think the thing about Leeds is, I think they will be the most exciting team this season period. I mean, in every game, I think you
Pottery.
will see goals. Exactly. There will be always, cricket scores there nearby. But the thing is, I think Leeds, because they have this all-action style of play, I don't think they will earn enough points from crucial junctures. They might win a lot of games, but I think they'll lose a lot of games either. It's not, they are not a draw team. That Man City one was, a clash of similar philosophies, which doesn't happen very often. So I think Leeds will be by far the most entertaining team this year. So yeah. So we have another 2 weeks or one more week of international breaks before Premier League comes back
Yeah,
on.
it feels like two already, even if it isn't.
Yeah, man. So I'm just praying that no more Chelsea first teamers get injured during this break. I mean, there is already news of Mendy being a doubt for the next Southampton game. So here's just hoping that all these guys stay away and stay safe, either from corona or from injuries as well. So those were our bold predictions for the 2021 season, and you know the way it's going, it's anyone's game. To be fair, anyone can really pull off a rabbit from the hat. So we'll come back to this once the season comes nearer to an end,
Surely,
and we'll try to figure out how much we have embarrassed ourselves on camera, and
like we did last week.
right after that, like we did last week. But we also did get some results right last week, so not all doom and gloom there. So that's it for today. I mean, one of the most entertaining and landmark sessions for this year, definitely. And here's looking forward to the next season, and we'll come back to this one earlier next year. So till then, ciao.
Bye bye.